2 super entertaining hours from the weekend of October 7th and 8th, 1995, comprises today's withdrawal from the Vault of Silliness. The title? Tiny, Sandy, and Normy. Eddie LeClair and Hope Schauer were producing. Now, before I get to the details, I want to mention here at the top a few ways you may support the show. Patreon, my distributor Castos, and Buy Me a Coffee. The wonderful Fred from Medford, whom you've heard many times on these shows, was very generous with the Java and kept me caffeinated this week. Thank you, Fred. To help, all you must do is check out the links below in ye old description box. It was a great month, listener and subscriber-wise, and it would be just so darn nice to keep that going by liking, subscribing, and sharing from whichever platform you obtain your weekly dose of the silly. In the next couple of weeks, I hope to have some additional ways to contribute, including merch. Okay, as I mentioned, the title of this is Tiny, Sandy, and Normy. It all begins with Jack Harte reading a commercial for the Family Channel, and then Norm with a sly line. Now it's on to the guests. From SpookyWorld, America's horror theme park, we have David Naughton, who was one of the actors from An American Werewolf in London, and Kane Hodder, who played Jason from, at the time, the last 3 Friday the 13th films. Then, an absolutely fascinating interview with the one and only Tiny Tim. Not only does he impress with his incredible musical knowledge, he sings, and so does Norm. And at one point, after the interview, we hear Tiny Tim again because he called back. Other calls taken throughout were from Peggy, Dawn, Nancy, Generosa, Helene, Fred, Kay, I believe, and 2 callers which will remain unidentified. Jack is back with some traffic and his sponsor, Silver Lake Dodge. We now mosey our way to October 8th with our guest, Sandra L. Beckwith, author of Why Can't a Man Be More Like a Woman?, as well as creator of the Doolittle Report newsletter. Now, the book she wrote, it's not what you think, but it could just be an early indicator of where we end up. She and Norm have a whole lot of fun. We close with some callers and Norm talking about a court TV reporter whom Norm had worked with and could not stand. Episode 204, Tiny, Sandy, and Normy, transforms its way to your ears. Now,
100 years old and your neighbors are crazy. You need a good sense of humor. New Hearts back weeknights at 6 and 6:30 on the Family Channel.
Hey, here's Norm Nathan. He's my kind of man. I listen to Norm Nathan every time I can. On WBZ in Boston, the Norm Nathan Show.
Hello, this is that person, a fabled and legend and song. Norm Nathan, nice to be with you. We'll be with you throughout the night, talking with some interesting people. Many of the interesting people, as a matter of fact, will be you.
Actually have been here since the beginning, since the first year they opened. And I've been here every year since, and it's a lot of fun. It's a big family park, and you got the haunted hayride type thing, the scary hayride. You have the haunted barn. You have the retail section. You got a bunch of midway games. There's an alien simulator ride. You got all kinds of different entertainers walking around, and you have us signing autographs, meeting people, taking pictures, and basically trying to scare everybody.
Okay, basically. I love the way you say that.
Trying out new farm implements as well, once in a while.
I'm sorry, you're trying out new farm implements?
Sure. You never know what you might need for the next movie.
That's right. What is the next movie? Will there be another?
Oh, sure. We're not finished yet.
How many Friday the 13th movies have there been? I've lost track.
Well, there has been 9 of them so far.
Yeah.
I played Jason in the last 3, and the only person having ever played the character in more than one movie. So there has been 9, and we're not finished yet. They are writing a script right now for the next installment, which involves Jason meeting Freddy.
Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, some ginky person there. This is a big timer from Boston. Why do people love to be scared? By movies, by by riding, like roller coasters and all that. What's that?
Well, I think I'll let David answer this one.
Okay, but I mean, you think the last thing in the world anybody would want to do was to frighten themselves. But that apparently is what people really love to do. Scare me. I'll pay you. I'll pay you money to scare me. I'll go up on a roller coaster. Anything. Just, why is that?
I don't know about the psychological implications. It's just, if it's something that you remember, it's very memorable. Thrill seekers, that's what we call them. And I think along in those lines of thrill seekers are frightening experiences. Either they go back from childhood, being afraid of the dark, being afraid of whatever our fears are, we carry those right into the movie theaters. And a lot of the filmmakers in Hollywood capitalize on those and say, oh, you're a little afraid of this? Well, watch this! and I'm sticking to that story.
Okay, it's as good as anything I can think of. I remember there was a movie producer once who had these frightening movies, and he added color to them at the theater. He would have an ambulance outside and nurses there for people who had who were shocked into total frightening, not total frightening. You know what I'm saying? Would have to be carted away to the hospital because they were so frightened it just got to them.
And that was like hype to me.
It was hype. It was total hype. Of course it was. Yeah. Hey, you guys are great. I really appreciate talking with you. And even though I've asked you some really jumbled up, really stupid questions, you've come across and you've made something of me. I'm just so proud.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Norm.
Okay, David Naughton, Kane Hodder, who are both out at SpookyWorld, the America's newest theme park, which is out in Berlin, Massachusetts. Been going for a few years. It's been fun to talk with both of them. We'll talk with Tiny Tim. Not in a minute. We'll talk with Tiny Tim right now, as a matter of fact. Hey, Tiny Tim, are you there? I bet he is there. I can hear him breathing. Let's listen. Is Tim there?
Mr. Nathan?
Oh, Tiny Tim, hi. It's nice to talk with you.
Nice to talk to you. And it's nice working with such great people like Mr. Naughton, Mr. Hodder, and, back here in SpookyWorld again. And I'm certainly glad you got the name right, because even Jay Leno made a mistake to call it Spookyville.
Oh, Spookyville, yeah. Well, he should know better.
Really SpookyWorld. I heard Brian Gumbel got it wrong, but you got the name right, and thank you. It is SpookyWorld.
Okay, well, Jay Leno should have known better, because he's from he's from Massachusetts, so he grew up not far from SpookyWorld.
Well, maybe it was one of those quick mistakes that he might have known about, but wanted to foul it up anyway.
Okay.
But anyway, you said one thing. I'm very sad the Red Sox did lose.
I know. Isn't that sad?
They made one big mistake when they traded Babe Ruth. And they made another mistake when they traded Wade Boggs.
Oh,
because they gave the Yankees the 1-2 punch that is rough enough to have Mattingly as a key player, but when you have someone like Boggs and Mattingly, I mean, well, it speaks for itself. You see what's happening.
I didn't realize you were a big baseball fan, Tony.
I followed the Dodgers going back to '43 when Louis Olmo and Frenchie Bordergray and Mr. DeRocha was managing them. I mean, rest in peace at that time. And I also followed another shocking blow in 1949 when the Red Sox were 2 games in front, needed 1 to win, went into the last 3 games in the Yankee Stadium. Joe McCarthy was managing them, and they lost 3 games to the Yankees, and they've always, in the last few years, folded in the clutch. They need a clutch man like Wade Boggs who can go under this pressure and really steam them up, when the pressure's on. Look at the Reds. Cincinnati Reds has all experienced players going into these playoffs, and that's what you need, players who've been there before. The mistake of trading Wade Boggs has paid off again in their loss tonight. They need a key man like an Ed Stanky or Maury Wills or what's his name, Billy Martin, may rest in peace, or even this guy Wilson, who came from the Mets, who played for Toronto for a while. You need that key player, that key one who really revs them up. I don't care if you have Mantle, Gehrig, and everyone on the team. You must have a man like Rizzuto, a hustler who sparks up the club, and that's what the Red Sox didn't have.
Well, we're also sick of saying wait till next year. The only problem is a lot of people here.
Mr. Sherman, the head man here says it is.
Okay, it is right. It's Central Massachusetts, which means it's not far from either side of the state, whether they're coming from the western side and have to go east, or from the eastern side here around the Boston area and going west. And business seems to be pretty good there, considering that the Spooky World has only been in business. How long? It's only been a few years, I think.
5 years. It's about 40 minutes from Boston. And basically, I can't complain. They've been wonderful to me. I'm only here till the 14th next Saturday. Then I go to the new Spooky World in Minneapolis. And Spooky World has done so well in the past that they can afford to open another one. And there are rumors, I'm not sure how true this is, but there are rumors now it's expanding to Dallas next year. But that is not for sure yet.
Okay, but is this the first year for their expansion into Minneapolis?
Yes.
Isn't that something after just really a few years?
Yeah, I have to go out there next week on the 15th for the closing 2 weeks.
Okay, can we get into, not so much Minnesota, we do get to parts of Illinois and Wisconsin, which is sort of in that area anyway. And so I hope a lot of people out there will pass the word to people who are in the Midwest who might want to take that in. And this will be a copy of the Spooky World that began here in Massachusetts.
Yeah, I'll be out there with Linda Blair will be out there. And also Bobby Pickett will be coming back here for the next 2 weeks from the 15th to Halloween. And so it's just a pretty exciting lineup again, for papers last year, in July of 94, that I was staying in Des Moines, Iowa, got the name of the hotel, came over with her ex-boyfriend, rode all the way from Minnesota, it hired me to do a video last September, fell in love. I didn't see my wife anyway too much, the second wife. She gave me a divorce in June, and I married her in August.
Do you feel that your first two divorces were your fault? You seem to be suggesting that.
Well, I think in marriage, where I'm concerned, it's not easy to live with me. And basically, I don't know, sometimes I don't know, what's the word? Maybe I belong in Spooky World. I get a little neurotic, if this doesn't look right, if that doesn't look right, I can get temperamental, and sometimes they cheat on me. Both wives cheated on me in the past. I can't, if I cheated on both wives first, then I would have said, sue me and take every cent you got. But both of them committed adultery on me in the marriages. Miss Sue so far has been very faithful, and she knows I'm impotent, at least 99%, and basically she doesn't mind it right now. And so, as long as she treats me the way it is, I have no complaints.
That's kind of interesting. I've never heard you say that before. You say 99% impotent, so you're not totally.
Only 1%. Really, she has to make the initiative, and she does, and she's very nice that way. And not much happens, but there is a slight thrill. But she doesn't care. She just loves me so much. I mean, she used to adore me, and before she met me at 12 years old, I used to be her idol, and she was very happy that she married a dream.
Now, have you changed much your own personality since your marriage to Miss Vicky on the Johnny Carson show way back? Are you still pretty much the same kind of person?
Well, I can say, I believe I am. I've been saying the same things now I've been saying 26 years ago. Only the years have gone on, and but the same songs, the same habits. You do your best and you pray for the rest.
Okay.
But one other thing I want to say, you also mentioned something I don't want to let go to Mr. Hodder before.
Yeah.
And I think you initiated something, Mr. Nathan, that's not been mentioned too much. There should be an award for stuntmen.
Oh, yes, I think so, too. I know you know it because I have a feeling you know every one of these old songs. One was, the roses all envy the bloom of your cheeks, and the sun even envies your smile. Anyway, the name of the song was The World Will Be Jealous of Me.
Mr. Sherman, just hold the phone. Just a bit of this song, whatever I remember. The
sunny wind envies your smile.
But with one word or style, let them all you'll be mine. All the world will be jealous of me.
That's right. I love that song. There was another one that we do here. I think I sing over the original old orthoacoustic record of it is, all day long I jump and run about. You can always hear me shouting out, hello, Bluebird. You know that one?
No, I don't. Who sang that?
Boy, I can't remember.
That All the World Will Be Jealous of Me was written by Ernest R. Ball and J. Karen Brennan.
Now, Ball, Ball wrote something else that's well known. I can't think of what.
Well, he wrote Love Me and the World Is Mine.
Yeah.
He wrote Let the Rest of the World Go By.
Oh, Let the Rest of the World Go By.
He wrote When Irish Eyes Are Smiling, Mother McCree, and of course songs that are not that well known, as you mentioned, but they were still great songs. Songs like You Planted a Rose in the Garden of Love. He wrote a song called, which Henry Burr sang in 1916, You're Making a Miser of Me. I can't get enough of your kisses. I'm counting the few that you gave. I gloat all the while over each little smile that made me forever your slave. I save every letter you send me. I hide them where no one can see. And the more love you give me, the more love I crave. You're making a miser of me.
That's great. I love
That's what he sang in 1915. He was the Bing Crosby without electric. There was no one like him.
I love that. I remember when I was a kid, we used to listen to you mentioned Al Jolson, who did, of course, a lot of songs he would whistle or he would cry a lot. Sonny Boy. This I remember this. I remember digging up a record by a man named, it wasn't Al Jolson, it was somebody else who did Sonny Boy.
Was it Irving Kaufman?
Irving Kaufman, that's right. And I remember playing that on one of these wind-up old Victrolas. And my uncle coming into the room and saying, don't play that one, play Al Jolson because he cries on the record. And I remember that. One thing I've never understood about Sonny Boy is climb upon my knee, Sonny Boy, even though you're only 3, Sonny Boy, there's no way, and so on. Then at the end he says, and the angels grew lonely and they took you because they were lonely. So what I'm wondering about is how could he climb upon this guy's knee if apparently the kid was dead? I never could reconcile that whole song. It didn't make any sense.
What were the words there again?
At the beginning, he says, climb upon my knee, Sonny Boy, though you're only 3, Sonny Boy, there's no way of knowing, there's no way of showing what you mean to me, and so on. And then at the end, he says, this is where he cries, and when the angels grew lonely, they took you because they were lonely. Well, I'm lonely too, Sonny Boy. And then the tears. So how could he be lonely because the angels took this guy? And then who's he talking to when he says, climb upon my knee?
That's a great thought. I never gave that a thought, and I'd like to answer that and go right into the Kaufman thing, because I met Irving Kaufman just, before he died back in 1968, may he rest in peace, at 80 years old. But first, in answer to your question, hang on, Christ for the wisdom, but maybe I'm going to, I want to say that it seems to me, when Mr. Jolson sang, and nobody said this, they say what a great stage performer he was, but I've heard cassettes later on of a lot of songs that people don't know from Mr. Jolson, and he was a great seller of songs on records, but he was such a great stage performer that nobody paid as much attention on records as they did, when he performed on stage. In the Sonny Boy thing, I believe, this is what I believe in your answer there, that he was having memories of the kid when he was alive.
Okay, that obviously that would
and
settle
he was
that.
fantasizing, even though the son was not there in body no more, he was just there in spirit.
Okay.
But the Kaufman one, Irving Kaufman told me that his record of Sonny Boy was a bigger hit in England than Al Jolson's.
Yeah. And the other song that I remember from Al Jolson, I don't know whether we're boring people who are not interested in music of that era, but I think the stuff is fun. One was,
we're not boring Mr. Jolson because he's listening.
Oh, that's right. Okay, you believe that?
Oh yes, okay. I believe definitely in that. I was out the other day working in Freiburg, Massachusetts, with Robin Lynn, who also plays here, Mike Leary Orchestra, and I was out there waiting to go on, and it was a Tuesday night. It was very nice. The moon was in the air, and I was feeling in the mood of Rudy Valley. And he was New England in the late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah,
everything was Rudy Valley in this country,
yeah,
from 28 to 31. And I was singing a song that Valley sang, "Oh, New England moon, I'm pining," and there was the moon in the sky. And I said, "Gee, Mr. Valley's got to be here." And so I really believe, Mr. Jolson's hearing this now, and we're keeping his name alive. Say with Mr. Kaufman and Ernest Arball, J. Ken Brennan. There's a reason for everything. But, Jolson was a great seller of songs. And, when it's unfortunate, there are rumors that he had his name put on songs at the time, which he didn't write, but, he was so popular. If the guy wanted a break, that's what he'd have to do. Well, that wasn't, of course, the right attitude when you hear that. But in this world, you only hunt for so long, and he wanted to get the most, of what his name meant to people. Because once he started slipping in 1932, when he was married to Ruby Keeler, he felt the pains until the Jolson story came out with Larry Parks in 47.
Yeah, I remember his radio show, and there's a rainbow around my shoulder and a sky of blue above and all this. Like, Tiny Tim, you're a pleasure to talk with. I wish you much more than another year with Miss Sue. I hope you have many lovely, lovely years together. And you're always fun to talk with. I really appreciate you coming on and reminiscing with us and giving your comments on things.
Well, Mr. Nathan, thanks for having me on. Thanks for being such a good listener. And,
and you'll be at Spooky World another week after this coming week?
Yeah, all week till October 14th.
Okay, and Spooky World itself will remain open beyond that. And you'll be out in the new Spooky World out in Minnesota, and America's Horror Theme Park in Berlin, Massachusetts. Very best of luck to you, Tiny Tim. I hope we'll talk again soon.
And anytime, maybe we'll get together and do it in person.
Okay, that would be. Hey, I co-star with Tiny Tim. What a break! Take care of yourself.
You're the star. I'll just so I can sell the song.
Okay,
thanks, Mr. Nathan.
Thank you, Tiny Tim. And just cause I don't know, we didn't seem to have enough money to buy any new records, so I'd listen to all these things that came out during the 20s and maybe earlier than that. And it was, I don't know, there was something kind of fun about all that. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing that I think your listeners and everyone should know.
Okay.
What Elvis Presley had in common with Al Jolson.
Oh my God, I can't think of
both of them.
That's like when Elvis Presley visited Richard Nixon. I mean, those are such highly unlikely duos.
Well, but what they have in common is that never in the history of this century have there been more imitators of these two great personalities.
Oh yeah, I remember one named, was it Norman Brooks? Do you remember him?
1950, Hello Sunshine.
Yeah, he did. He sounded just like Al Jolson.
Well, there were many imitators, but I mean, as far as paraphernalia, costumes, the black mammy face, the Elvis Presley imitators, both of them in the century had so many imitators, costumes, makeups, imitators, lookalikes. It's unbelievable.
I think people today, and it's hard for anybody who was not living during that Al Jolson period to realize the tremendous, overwhelming popularity that he had when he was at his peak. You were saying the peak was, up to about 33 or something like that?
Yeah, his great years were really from 1916, he was already making noise at the Winter Garden. Mammy really put him on the map. From 1916 to the peak of the jazz singer, when sound came in, I'd say from 16 to 29, was Jolson's 10, more than 10, 26, about 13 great years. And then when the stock market crashed and the talkies got in, and when the 30s came, it was a new generation like it always is.
Lifting the horse's leg up. And you expect them to be big, burly guys.
Strong men, right.
Yeah, but no, she's a delicate lady, and she's very good at it. And there are more and more, I think there are more women who are vets now with big animals and small animals than there are males. I think that's very much of a woman's occupation now.
Well, it's a good job, I guess.
If you like it. Well, if you don't like it, then whatever it is you don't like is not a good job, no matter what it is.
Right.
Hey, Peggy, I'm glad to talk with you.
Times I've called you in the past. Do you look anything like Hal Bruno, who's one of the newscasters on TV?
See, I can't remember what he looks like exactly. I think I know, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I don't know whether I do or not. I just can't picture him.
Can I get on your picture list?
Well, you could, except I don't have any pictures now. I really don't. The last batch I took were taken during the 1919 Boston police strike. No, I mean they're so out of date that I just don't send them out anymore. But I will take some pictures probably within the next few weeks.
Okay.
And so ask me again.
All right, I'll do that.
Okay, Don, I gotta go.
Area by Walden Pond between Route 126 and Sudbury Road. Earlier fires still have the westbound side shut down. Traffic is getting by on the eastbound side, but do continue to drive with extreme care. Traveling downtown, traffic is starting to build on the expressway northbound, getting up towards the South Station Tunnel. Lower deck of Route 93, Tobin Bridge heading into the city, also showing an increase in the early Saturday morning commute. Drive with a little bit of extra caution. We're seeing just a little bit of moisture on area roadways. Drive with some caution on the expressway northbound and southbound, not to mention the secondary and tertiary roads. I'm Jack Harte, WBZ 24-hour traffic network. Now at Silver Lake Dodge, our 95 year-end clearance sale includes new Neons, Intrepids, Stratus, and Caravans, as low as $99 a month on a 24-month lease.
Remember, was roll the ball to Baptist. Catch that?
Say that again, roll the balls?
Roll the ball to Baptist. It's just a kind of a slang kind of a word, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know that song at all. How does that go? Do you know how it goes?
I do know how it goes, and that's why I'm calling, and I'm hoping that the caller is still listening.
Boy, I don't know whether she would be listening right now or not.
You take a ball, and you're playing with another person, and you bounce it once, and you say plainsies, and then you bounce it while you clap your hands, and you say clapsies. You go plainsies, clapsies, roll the ball to Bapsies. Hikesy, locusy, and each time you're doing something different with your hands.
Oh, gee, I sort of vaguely remember that, playing that game as a kid myself.
Yeah, that's what I did, too. I'm 40, and I used to play it when I was about 10.
Oh, boy, that's just the day before yesterday, by my clock. Anyway, that's interesting that you would remember that. It's funny how there's some of these things from when you were a kid. His wife cut it off and made it into jelly. Isn't that ugly?
Oh, that's a new one on me.
Oh, that's a very old one on me. Anyway, you're nice to call, Nancy. I hope the...
Thanks very much, Norm.
You're adorable. I'm rattling papers again because I'm not organized at all. I never can find anything I'm looking for. But there's a jazz concert that's coming up that...
When?
I have the pleasure of emceeing. It's, let me see. Here it is.
Yeah.
It's October 11th. It's this coming Wednesday night. It's just up in Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Oh, no.
It's at the Portsmouth Music Hall, though. The thing is, not only is Joe Williams a great singer there, and some great entertainers, great musicians, but the Portsmouth Music Hall is an old historic hall. One of the old style theaters in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. The 5th annual jazz concert to benefit the Harry W. Jones Jr. Memorial Scholarship Fund. Great number of performers, including the Dave Seiler and the Seacoast Big Band, which I heard for the first time a couple of years ago. Great band up there. And Joe Williams, one of my favorites for many years, will be up there. But it's 8 o'clock. They're pretty well nearly sold out up there for the concert. So that's exciting. Anybody is interested, they'll come on up or call the music hall there. Now, tell me about your event.
Well, my event is going to be at St. Adelaide's Church. Too bad I can't get there because I do have something going on for next Wednesday night. If it had been local, I would have broken whatever I had going and come. Because I'm still waiting to get up to the Village Green, you know. The night that I know you're going to be there, a group of us are going to come up.
Okay. Well, no, I just go there I'm just part of the audience. I'm not MC or anything like that.
Yeah, no,
okay.
I know it. No, it's a yearly event at St. Adelaide's, and we have a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of different Grandma's Attic, I'll be there with bells on as usual, and then of course we have different items that are coming in, and they have a lot of food and fresh baked goods and things for the kiddos and raffle tickets. It's a lot of fun. Knit goods, the usual thing, country store. So I hope that if you're in the area, because you're not too far from us, that you'll come down and say hello, and I hope to see a lot of other people there. So this is my chance to tout it.
Okay, I'm glad you did. And
okay, Norm, thank you.
Thank you, Generosa. Take care now.
Yep, bye-bye, Jim.
Bye-bye. On behalf of Eddie LeClair, the lovely Marilyn Gorelick, myself, again, almost good-looking, and I missed again today. Maybe I'll be good-looking by the time I get home. I'm better looking, I told you. I'm better looking in my own mirror in the bathroom than I am in, like, the mirror here at BZ. I think they put a mirror in to make you look ugly at BZ so that we won't go in asking for raises. I think there's some kind of a plot. Anyway.
Hey, people, pleasure awaits. You tuned to Norm Nathan, he's one of the greats. Right here on BZ, reaching 38 states, singing the song so you'll know. It's time for Norm Nathan Show. When the day-to-day world starts to drive you insane, and you feel like you're riding on a runaway train, Norm makes you laugh and keeps spirits bright. Tune in 10:30 and call Norm tonight. Hey, out there in Radio Land, you tuned to Norm Nathan and he's at your command. So stay here and listen, then you'll understand. He's a habit you'll never outgrow. But right now, Norm Nathan Show. I said right now, Norm Nathan Show. Here's Norm.
Well, thank you very much, Linda Chase. Thank you just so darn much. Interesting guest will be with us in a moment, and I want you to know, of course, that do you understand that we practice safe radio here at WBZ? I'm suggesting when you listen to the Norm Nathan Show, you put a condom on each ear. You know, I mean, you can't be too careful these days. Anyway, it's 8 minutes after 11 o'clock. Our guest will be Sandra Beckwith, who has written a book called Why Can't a Man Be More Like a Woman? It'd be interesting talking with her. I've read the book, and it points out the differences between men and women. And she's got more differences than I thought. I thought I was a sensitive, caring kind of male. But I think when I more look at the book, I realize I'm just a bore, and I just don't deserve your love. I'll talk with Sandy in just a minute. Stop and ask people for directions. I think that's probably quite true, Sandy. I was mentioning earlier that I thought I was a very sensitive, caring kind of male and didn't fit the kind of people you're talking about. But on that one, I find it very hard. I agree with that. I think, I don't know, do women, are they more apt to ask for directions?
Yes, they are. But, Norm, I think you just need to face it. You're a guy. You're just a guy, Norm.
You mean I'm guilty without even a trial, for God's sakes?
No way around it, but that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
Well, if men and women were exactly alike, what would the fun be? Where would the challenge be?
You're exactly right, and that's the point of the book, is that they're not exactly right, that there are good reasons for the differences, and we should sit back and enjoy it, or at least find the humor in the differences and worry less about changing them. That's something women try to do. They try to change men, and it's not fair to you poor guys.
I don't like
You're
those.
hopeless.
I was going to say condescending to you. You're condescending until you said hopeless, and then you're just downright insulting.
Yeah.
And the fact is, I'm looking at your picture in the back of your book.
Oh, my Donna Reed photo.
Oh, yeah, you got the both hands under your chin like a Donna Reed picture. You were an adorable. Adorable was probably not the word. You probably would like me to describe you more as a kind of a lustful nymph, probably more than just plain adorable, I would think.
Yeah, I think my husband would probably rather have me described that way. Yeah, that's my Donna Reed photo. I have since been told, now that my hair is shorter, that I look much younger than I do in that photo. So picture me a little bit younger, Norm, and I'm still as nice as I look in the picture.
Oh, because actually you look quite young in the picture. Because as I looked at the picture, I kept thinking, this punk kid, what would she know about all this? She hasn't lived long enough to know.
It's funny you say that. I spoke to a group of about 100 older women last week, and by older, I think the average age in the group is probably about 60. And they kept coming up to me at the head table and saying, well, honey, you look younger than your picture in your book, and I'm just wondering, how can you know so much? And I said, frankly, I don't, but I spent last summer calling men I don't know all over the country to interview them for this book, because the information in the book comes straight from the guys themselves. So you guys across America helped me out tremendously.
Well, that's because you're a lustful-looking nymph.
Yes.
If you were just an ugly-looking old guy, we wouldn't have even responded.
That's right. I had to fax each of them a photo before they talked to me, but it worked, Norm.
You have some really funny observations. By funny, I mean they're amusing and they're fun to look at. And one, for example, is men don't like to cook indoors. Like you expect women probably do, or maybe not in all cases, but in any case. But men like to barbecue outside. Like there's a difference. But you're macho if you barbecue, but if you cook over a stove, that's not macho.
You're absolutely right. Men make fire. Men can't make fire in the kitchen. Men outside to make fire. Yes, some men, unfortunately, see the kitchen as the female domain, and heaven forbid they should be mistaken for a woman at the stove. These are, of course, the same guys who won't wear pink shirts. They're paranoid about that, but yet they are the first ones to cook outside, because that's outside. It's outdoors. It's God's country. It's man's country, and of course there is that early man's fascination with fire.
That's right. The stuff they did outside of caves and dragged you women in, lustful nymphs that you might be, dragged you in by your hair into the cave.
Yeah, but they dragged us into the cave to fix the greens. For the meat, they were barbecuing outside on the fire. Because, that's the woman's job, gathering the greens. So while we women are inside in the kitchen, fixing the salads and the side dishes, you guys are all gathered around the grill outside, talking about really important things. I know the barbecuing season is passing us here, but you guys get around that grill and you talk about important things like whether you should heap the coals into a pyramid or not.
Or about sports. Did you mention the fact that you figure women can't understand man's preoccupation with sports?
Yes, because are you a sports fan, Norm?
Yes, I am to a certain point.
If you're introspective about it, you know that it's more than just a preoccupation with a game. That it's part of your maleness. It's part of your upbringing. It's part of your patterns from when you were a young boy. For many men, it has a lot to do with bonding with their fathers. That this is what they did with their fathers when they were kids. They went to sporting events, and so they have all those good memories from the past, and then you add that to the good memories of the present, all that male bonding and camaraderie that you get when you're at a game live and in person. And then, of course, Norm, there's always the fun of taping the game at home while you're attending it.
I know you mentioned
a
the fact
uniquely
that
male sort of behavior.
Yeah, you watch the game. You're talking about guys going to the game, and then they come home and they watch the tape that's been taping while they've been gone, so they can see the game over again.
And watch for themselves on camera.
Yeah, you suggested guys do that because this way they can get, oh, that's right, they can look for themselves on camera. I forgot about that.
That's right.
But also they can hear what the broadcasters say about plays. So when you're at a game, you don't get a running commentary. And I think there's a weakness there. I think guys don't trust their own ability to analyze a game.
Good point.
So when they come home, they want to know, what did the commentator say? And then they'll say to them, see what he said? I said the same thing. It's kind of like they're backing him up in his little silly opinion.
Now, the man who is obsessed with being a man will be at the game. He'll be videotaping it at home, but he'll also have either a radio with him or a little watchman with him. And he will have earphones in, so he's hearing what the commentary is coming across the radio.
Oh, I guess that's true, yes.
So
Some guys
he
do
gets
that.
his very, very bright opinions about each play out of his earplugs and can share them with the guy next to him who is not plugged in and perhaps is too, focused on the game to notice that the expert next to him has earplugs in, earphones. And he thinks this guy with the earphones is absolutely brilliant, when in fact it's the commentary that the man is spitting out as if these were his original thoughts.
Okay.
That's classically male. But Norm, I'm glad to see you've read the book. You actually have. That's exciting.
I actually read it, and I have to give a sports note just very quickly, because our New England Patriots played the Denver Broncos this very evening. The game has just ended, and the New England Patriots got clobbered 37-3 by the Denver Broncos. This was supposed to be a big year for Cena. I'm talking just like these guys in your book.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm about to slit my wrist. This is too much for me.
Don't do that. Well, now, how does your husband take? Now, is your husband fairly typical of these guys you're writing about?
No, only in the sports department. He is totally obsessed with college basketball, and we're coming up on that season, so I truly am about to slit my wrist because the girls and I pretty much lose him during this time of the year to Syracuse University games. It's 2 hours door to door from Rochester to the Dome in Syracuse, and he does it for absolutely every home game.
Yeah.
So he's typical in that respect, but thank God for the rest of the book. Boy, he's not in there. That shoot me before that's my life,
See, now, that's the thing that makes the book a little, not strange for me, but some things I can identify with them to a certain point. But I grew up with a mother who was very strong and a wife who was, very much so, Mm-hmm. So if there was any weakness thing, I think my wife would have barbecued outside and I would have cooked. Well, no, I don't. I'm overdoing that.
Well, but you say weakness, but I think maybe what you're talking about is playing to each other's strengths, which might be a role reversal for some households. But in fact, what you're just doing is if she prefers to barbecue, let her. If you don't want to do it, that's one problem I have, and one thing I hope that at some level the book does is encourages people to blur the gender roles a little bit. I say in my house, we try not to look at things as classically men's work or women's work. It's just, which job do you like to do and which job do you hate to do, and let's look at what I'm good at and divide things up accordingly, as opposed to what our parents did.
And, of course, things have changed quite a little bit since women are in the marketplace now, and many, many more women are working all the time. So it isn't just a question of the men bringing in the income, but the women also do. But I would imagine, despite that, there are some men, and you certainly describe them in the book, Why Can't a Man Be More Like a Woman? You describe them as, despite the fact that both husband and wife work, the husband still expects the wife to do the wifely things, and the husband do the husbandly thing, which is probably nothing around the house, not very, very much.
Yes, sort of. Men get to, in most households still, even in homes where there are two incomes, men still get to pick those jobs that they like, and they tend to pick the jobs that get done, say, on a weekly, monthly, or biannual basis, as opposed to the drudgery of the day in and day out kind of chores. And those can be things like dishes, giving children their baths or putting children to bed or helping with the homework, or laundry. In most cases, and of course this is changing, thank heavens, but in most cases, in the majority, men still are not doing 50% of the housework, particularly, especially still in homes where there are two incomes. You know, the man and the woman might both work a full 40-hour week, but when it comes to coming home, she's still putting in another 40-hour week, and his is more like a 15 or 20-hour week at home, if that.
I feel wretched when you put it that way.
Well, but you know, them's the facts, Norm. That's just how it is, and it would be nice if it changed a little, don't you think? A little more fair?
Oh, well, no, I think it should be a 50-50 thing, certainly. And let's see, one other point that you had touched on, not just one other point, because you touched on a whole lot of things.
Oh, I let it rip, didn't I?
You didn't hold back anything.
But with a sense of humor, you know, because you got to find the humor in all this, so you can go nuts.
You can. I think I crocheted that into my doily. It said, without a sense of humor, you can go nuts. Yeah. I got that hanging on my wall.
Yeah, you crocheted that in yourself, right?
Yeah, I crochet into my doily sayings that people come across with that I think are terribly important and I ought to remember, and that is one of them. I have a feeling before we're through talking, I not only will crochet a lot of your sayings into my doily, but I'll probably fall desperately in love with you and probably send you obscene notes.
That sounds delightful. I'll give you my email address. I'll get them really quickly.
Okay. How old are you? You have two daughters, you said.
My daughters are 8 and 5.
Oh, they're just little guys.
Little ones, yeah.
Little guys. Now, did your husband change diapers and stuff when they were babies?
Absolutely.
So he's a perfect kind of good guy.
Yes, he is. You know, from the beginning, we both knew that we were going into this parenting business without knowing anything. We were both equally ignorant, and that helped. You know, neither one of us had the upper hand in terms of knowledge or experience. So we started off together sharing all of the work, and it's still great. Every night he gives them their bath and puts them to bed while I go out and walk so that I can, you know, continue to be that lustful woman on the back of the book. Got to keep that girlish figure, you know, Norm.
When you're a wonderful person. You mentioned another area, too, that I thought was kind of interesting. Another one I hadn't really thought of, which is kind of interesting because I think of a lot of things. I happen to be a big brain.
Well, good.
Yeah, and so I usually think of most everything you could possibly think of, and yet you came up with stuff I hadn't. One was the nickname thing. Guys give each other nicknames. The women don't give each other nicknames much.
Not nearly as much as men.
I've never known a woman who was called by another woman like Stinky.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Short Pants or anything like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Why is that?
Well, you know, for men, it's very interesting. It all relates to how men communicate differently from how women communicate. You know, when you've got two women who are best friends, one will say to the other, well, you know you're my best friend because I've got you on speed dial, because we women talk a lot, an awful lot. With men, however, it's, you know you're my best friend because I've given you a nickname. So it's a way of establishing intimacy among male friendships. But in addition, it's also a way for men in a social group to identify boundaries and identify who is in the group and who is not in the group. If you're in the group, you know and use the nicknames, especially when you greet the guy on the street or somewhere. If you're not in the group, you don't know the nicknames, and you're labeled as an outsider, you know, indirectly.
No, I guess that's interesting. Now, do you live in the Rochester area?
Yes.
Okay, your husband can hear you. If you can tune us in, we do get out to Rochester. Did you know that?
You do? No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you want to yell to your husband, tell him to tune in to 10:30 on the AM dial.
10:30 on
Fine-tune it, and he probably will pick up WBZ out there. We get calls from Rochester.
I will slip a note out to him and tell him that.
Oh, you will slip a note out to him?
Yeah, I'll use sign language. He's very gifted.
I think that's wonderful. Okay, let's just take a little break for some, we call them commercials. I don't know what your book called, Why Can't a Man Be More Like a Woman? And also, the creator says here of the award-winning newsletter, the Do Little Report. And that is spelt the way it sounds for people who don't do a whole lot. Do Little Report. What is that about, Sandy?
It's very similar to the book. In fact, the book is an offshoot of the newsletter, and the Doolittle Report is named after Eliza Doolittle from My Fair Lady, because you may recall in the movie, Henry Higgins sang this, delightful song. Why can't a woman be more like a that you are a sensitive New Age guy?
Yes, I am. I want to be a Mr. 90s. I want to be a guy of the 90s. I don't quite know how to do that since I'm about 150 years old.
Well, but how about you can start with cappuccino. Do you enjoy cappuccino?
Yeah, it isn't the kind of thing I think of first thing when I get up during the day.
Well, you don't really have to enjoy it. You just have to tell people you do.
Okay, what other things should I enjoy, and how should I talk and all that if I want to be a 90s guy?
You should wear Dockers.
Dockers? No. Oh, those are the
Levi casual clothes that are made for the older man's figure.
Okay, because we used to call them dungarees, but dungarees is not a phrase of the 90s.
Yeah, Dockers is a brand name.
Yes.
It's a whole line of clothing, but it's made to fit the mature man's body.
You mean the guy with the big tush?
Yeah.
And then why don't you just come right out and say it, Sandy?
Because I'm trying to be politically correct for your listeners, Norm.
You don't have to.
We don't want any angry callers. like this is going to change anything now, right?
Well, it may. I think we both are having a profound influence on. But anyway, what else? Are there other tips you can give me to become a man of the 90s?
Yes, it's a wise thing to be a man of the 90s. You might want to drive a four-wheel drive vehicle.
I do that already.
Okay, and you...
Oh, my goodness, now I want to get rid of it.
You say you watch Baywatch for the storyline, and sometimes you get a little concerned because they're doing CPR incorrectly.
I've actually never seen Baywatch, but that's important that I do that.
Yes,
and for the storyline. It was like those of us when we were younger.
Yeah, you say you read Playboy for the stories, not the pictures.
Oh, yeah, that's right, for the stories.
Yeah.
Plus, but even going back before that, we would go to burlesque shows to see the comedians.
Oh, right.
Yeah, not the strippers, man. Those comedians, that's what we care about naked ladies. We care about these baggy pants kind of old, ugly-looking guys telling bad jokes. That's why we go.
That's why you went. And actually, you probably went there to protect the strippers from men who had other thoughts on their mind, thoughts beyond the wonderful comedians. I'm sure.
That's right. Guys who did not have pure, lovely, protective thoughts, and were not... Who am I kidding with all of this?
Not me, Norm. Let me give you a few more tips because I think you need this help.
I need the tips, and I wish you would.
You need to say things like, boy, I could really use a hug today.
Oh, hugs are in, aren't they? Yeah.
Hugs are in. Yes. You need to use the word fun as you're describing your clothing. Like, don't you think this is a fun tie? Yeah, this will help you become a sensitive New Age guy.
Yeah, fun tie, yeah. So it doesn't have to be attractive or fit in with whatever else I'm wearing, as long as it's kind of a fun tie.
A fun tie.
Yeah, I love this with a picture of Santa Claus, Brer Rabbit, and somebody who looks like my former father-in-law after a hangover. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Is that being a 90s guy, not knowing what you're talking about? Is that part of it?
That's just part of being a guy.
Oh, I see.
Regardless of the decade.
Oh, we're back to that again. Oh, sure. Well, you were a bitter person. For somebody who sounds like a little girl with a sweet temper and a lovely voice.
I'm a realist, Norm. I've lived, and boy, have I talked to other women. Oh, my gosh.
Hey, what about... You've talked to other women? Is that what you said?
Oh, yes. That's where all of this came from. The idea for the book was hearing women. You know, they would see my newsletter and they'd call and say, okay, tell me why they do this. Tell me why they do that. Tell me why they do the other thing. I thought, well, I got to answer these questions, but I sure can't do it myself. I'm going to have to call a bunch of guys to do this.
Okay. One section you have two of. The fact is that you seem to suggest, and I'm not certainly endorsing this or suggesting that you're correct in saying this, but you're suggesting that men lose things, misplace them, and then expect their wives or their fiancés or whatever kind of arrangement they have at home to find them. You kind of like their mates.
No. Do you think this has ever happened, Norm?
So you're shocked by this, too, the same as I was when I read it.
Yes, do you
You
think
finally come to your senses, Sandy.
Do you think there is a man on this planet who has ever walked around the house and said, honey, do you know where my brown belt is? Or, dear, do you know where I put my car keys? Or probably no man on this earth has ever opened the refrigerator door and said, honey, where's the butter? Probably never happened. I don't even know why I wrote about that.
Did you have to do it with a voice that's so full of hatred and so full of mockery? You have to do it there. Can't you just say it straight out?
No.
Like, honey, where's the butter? That's the way we talk. We don't talk, honey, where's the butter? We don't talk that way.
Some of your friends do, Norm.
Oh, they're not my friends if they talk that way. They're just off the list immediately.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
And, of course, none of these things apply to your own husband. This is what's scalding to me.
No,
you happen to marry the only perfect guy who ever came to upstate New York.
Well, he's pretty close to it. But, he knows better. He knows better than to say, honey, where are my car keys? Because he knows what I'm going to say, and that's, I don't know, I don't use them. I mean, I'm not going to drop everything and go run and look for something that he can find without me. He's an adult. He's an intelligent human being. But, some guys, Norm, unlike my husband, some guys think that women are built with homing devices factored right into their uteruses. Because what else would explain why women can find things that men can't find? Many times things that are right under the male nose.
Yeah, and of course there are other things men cannot see. You suggest, for example, if there's a little puddle, water puddle in the kitchen, for example, a man will act like he doesn't know it's there and walk around it. Obviously, he knows it's there. Otherwise, he'd walk through it.
Right.
Okay, so you mentioned that. You mentioned also the time it takes for men to do simple things around the house, like change a light bulb.
Approximately 2 weeks, typically.
Okay. You mentioned a whole lot of other things that put us guys in a just a terrible light.
I've got a tip here, though, for the guy who is forced to clean up that little puddle of juice or water, whatever it is on the floor.
Yeah.
Typically he'll walk around it, and then his wife will say, why didn't you wipe up that juice that you just walked around? And he'll go, well, I didn't see it. She goes, well, if you walked around it, you must have seen it. Well, I didn't see it. And chances are it did not register in his conscience. But she'll then say, okay, well, I'm telling you now it's there. Would you do me a favor and wipe it up? What a lot of guys tell me they like to do is rather than go get a paper towel or a cloth or something, what they like to do is just take off their shoe and wipe it up with their sock while they're wearing it.
I mean, just walk across it and kind of absorb it into the sock?
Yep.
Boy, I don't mind telling you, Sandy, I have never in my entire life met a man as callous and as that. I don't know who you've been hanging out with.
Well, see, but that's the point, Norm. This is not my life, thank heavens. But I have heard from women all over the U.S. and Canada and often Australia on all of these subjects. And it's not just the women who are telling me this stuff, it's the men, too. I hear from men who tell me things like, for example, if they're wearing dark socks and they've got a hole in the socks that shows above the top of their shoes, so say it's on their ankle, rather than change their sock, which would be the classically female reaction, the guy will go and get a black magic marker and color the skin that shows through the sock.
That's right.
So you don't notice the hole.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Well, nothing, but I'm just telling you that this is stuff that I hear about from men and women.
Okay.
It's not my crowd. It is the world's crowd.
You talked about the fact that one of the things that's quite true, that I find myself feeling that, like shopping for groceries, that kind of thing. Or shopping for clothes is even worse. I mean, I think most men. Well, say I'm in the high fashion industry of broadcasting.
Oh,
where
the
guys
best dressers in the world. You're absolutely right.
Oh yeah, they go around feeling it's the material on somebody else's jacket, saying, "Where did you get this?" That's the part of the business I really hate.
Yeah,
But there's a lot of that. But for the most part, including me, most guys don't like to shop for clothes. I find that, if I get arrested and found guilty of some heinous crime, I think the worst punishment would be you must go shopping for a new jacket. That is your punishment. I would bring that to the Supreme Court, but probably find it unduly savage kind of treatment that should be outlawed.
I'm sorry, Norm, but you're typical. I know that's like the worst thing I can say to you, but you're typical. most men, and again we're generalizing, but stereotypes exist for a reason. Most men are shopping challenged. They do not enjoy it. They're not very good at it, and they treat it like the hunt for the mastodon. They know what they want. They go right for it, and they get out of that store as quickly as they can before anything bad happens to them.
And, that's true. Just being there, I think, is enough evil could happen. Just being there is awful.
But, and that's really for clothing and gifts for women. Now, men do like to shop for big-ticket items like automobiles, furniture, and particularly for consumer electronics like, stereos and that sort of thing. Now, that's the kind of thing you can get a guy out shopping for. But unfortunately, the typical male will spend more time purchasing a new sound system for his apartment than he will purchasing the suit to wear in the job interview for the job that's going to pay for the sound system for the apartment.
You had one suggestion which I thought was rather nice, that men's clothing ought to have expiration dates on them.
Absolutely. Don't you think, Norm, that guys have trouble figuring out when a garment is past its prime?
Oh, no question about that. Yes,
so I
plead guilty.
If we put expiration labels into the, like the neck labels, best if used by, it'll give you a little guidance. And I called the people at Levi's about this and couldn't seem to shake anything loose there. They don't seem to be very interested in adding this to their apparel. So what I figure I'm going to do is go to another company and suggest that they do something similar to what Sears did for children years ago with a line of clothing they had called the Garanimals. And Garanimals had little animals sewed to the apparel, like it would be a tiger on the shorts, and then the kid would match the tiger on the shorts with the tiger on the shirt. That's how the little boy knew that the two pieces went together. He matched the animals, and that's how children learn to dress themselves. What I want to do is do that for men with tools, but add another twist to it. Treat the hammer on the pants and the hammer on the shirt with a special dye. So with time, the brown handle turns white. And then the poor guy knows that's when it's time to throw out that sweater. Don't you think this is ingenious?
Well, it says right on here, it says, quoting the Philadelphia Inquirer on the cover of the book, Sandra Beckwith is a genius. There's some dots in between is and a genius.
I know, it could be not, right?
It could be. Sandra Beckwith is writing a book that is totally ridiculous, even though she calls herself a genius. So maybe that's what replaced the dots.
Yeah, actually, I don't know why the publisher put those dots in there, because that's what the Inquirer said. It said Sandra Beckwith, I think it said, is a certifiable genius. I think the dots, in fact, are in the wrong place.
They probably thought men would read this and would not know what certifiable meant.
Could be. Sometimes that means you ought to be institutionalized. So, maybe. But, I think that you guys do have trouble knowing when to throw your clothes away. So I talked to this man, Richard Martin, who's the curator at the Costume Institute at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, and he confirmed it. He says that they are desperate for men's clothing at the Costume Institute. They have more female clothing than they know what to do with, but they are desperate for classic men's clothing. So if you guys could throw these things out a little bit, maybe this man wouldn't be so hard up there in Manhattan. But no.
Oh, but no. Sure. See, the bitterness is coming out again.
Oh, there it is again. Oh,
okay.
Gosh.
You also have a section called stupid men's tricks.
Stupid men tricks.
Incredibly
goofy things men do that women would never do.
Like, for example, what? For heaven's sakes.
Oh, okay. Well, how about this one? Say, Norm, that you're making yourself a salad for dinner tonight, and you really like croutons, but you don't have any of those store-bought croutons. Don't worry about it. Dump the crumbs from the bottom of your toaster on your salad. Now, I thought this one was unbelievable. I was doing a radio interview with somebody in Las Vegas last week, and the woman said to me, she goes, I really like those crumbs. She goes, let me take this one step farther and tell you what a friend of mine did. He wanted to make a BLT, but he didn't have bacon, so he used a jar of Bacos instead. Yeah. And he said, It was really noisy, but it tasted good.
If you douse it in mayonnaise, maybe it softens it enough so you don't notice it. Yeah. Oh, that sounds so awful. My stomach is turning just at the thought of...
Just listening to the crunching can get you.
That's true. Just a bunch of Bacos on a sandwich doused in mayonnaise. Oh. Anyway, the book is kind of fun. You point out things that men like that women don't, aside from their personal habits. And some of them, you mentioned, of course, sports. Although there are some women who do get very much wrapped up in sports.
I think there are 3 of them.
Okay. And but you also mentioned certain performers. Like, do you think men like different kinds of comics than women do? You point out the Three Stooges. You can't understand why men would like the Three Stooges when you suggest perhaps that women don't at all.
Well, actually, personally, I do like the Three Stooges, and I have sort of trained my girls on the Three Stooges, and I've got them so that they'll go. Alex will say to Jesse, "Hey, Jesse, pick 2," and the other one will go, nyah, nyah, nyah. And I have them doing Stooge-like things because, again, I'm working to blur the gender roles. But usually, women think the Three Stooges are totally moronic, and men think they're hysterical. And this just goes to the fact that we have a different sense of humor. There are different things that strike us funny. First of all, men are more visually stimulated than women are. And you add to that the fact that the Stooges are so physical that they make women uncomfortable. The violence makes women uncomfortable. The physical side of it makes women flinch, and they can't see any humor in that smacking.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of hitting off the head and all that. But it's interesting you say that men are more visual. And we've always been taught to think that. But switch the subject now, and I hate to say this because you were such a young, adorable person, although a lustful nymph also.
Yes, don't forget that.
Yeah, so we're talking like in sex. Women, I never would have believed a few years ago, we would have been told women would not have gone to see male strippers, for example. And I have never seen male strippers with just, obviously, because they don't allow men in there, although I've always wanted to go in and see what the reaction was. But you see them on television, and the women go crazy.
They go nuts.
So you guys are just as visually oriented toward those things as guys are. We never believed that before.
Well, I think that's just one thing. Let's take that a little bit farther, and let's add romance to the picture. Let's talk just beyond this carnal business. Have you heard of something called the Sipowicz syndrome?
I have not.
Do you ever watch NYPD Blue on ABC?
I've only seen that once, so I'm not exactly sure. So what is this?
It's a cop drama, and it's got a lot of attention when it first came out a year ago.
Oh, did we lose her? Sandy?
Some squirrel was probably chewing on the wire somewhere.
I had a feeling you were going to blame it on some sex-starved male, something like that. Some guy.
Yeah, that's right. All the guys at Rochester Tell have my number. They don't like me. It's payback time.
Now, we were talking about, you were talking about how men...
The Sipowicz syndrome.
Yes.
There's this man on NYPD Blue. His name is, he's a detective, Sipowicz, and he's not nearly as physically attractive as his colleague. He started out with one colleague who then left the show. He was quite nice looking and then left the show, and now he was replaced by Jimmy Smith, who is this, handsome, dark Hispanic. So Sipowicz has had these studly partners, yet Sipowicz has consistently brought in more fan mail than the studs on the show.
Is he the bald guy?
Yes, Dennis Franz.
Oh, Dennis Franz, and who must come from your area. He's got either Chicago or upstate New York. He's got your accent.
Oh, does he?
Yes.
I don't know, to tell you the truth, because I know he's a Hollywood guy now, but where he's from originally, I don't know.
Yeah, I bet you Midwest or Upper New York.
Yeah, you're right. We do. When I lived in Chicago and Wisconsin, I talked just like the people there and fit right in. So you're absolutely right.
Okay. Anyway, tell me about the syndrome.
So Dennis Franz is not. He's not anybody they'd probably hire to pose in the centerfold for Playgirl. Yet he gets more fan mail, and the men are fascinated by this. Why is it that this guy who does not have a classically attractive exterior is so appealing to women? And the men tell me they're confused by this because men would not be attracted to the female counterpart of Dennis Franz, who plays Detective Sipowicz. So men are saying, why are you women attracted to this guy? And what they don't realize is that for us, we go beyond the visual stimulation. We're attracted to who this guy is on the show. He's really a sensitive, sweet kind of guy. And we're all smitten with that. The guys, however, can't get past the exterior, and that's why they're all, drooling over Donna Abendanza, the blonde bombshell who's the receptionist for the department.
Oh. That means that a lot of us guys, even though we're handsome, but not incredibly handsome, that means we have a fighting chance.
You sure do.
With you cute little nymphs.
Nymphs, lustful nymphs.
Okay. Is your husband a good-looking guy?
Yes, he is. He's he's Greek. And you know what they say about Greeks? They're either Greek gods or god Greeks.
No, I never heard that before.
He's a Greek god.
I see. Okay. What did you do? Audition him before you married him just to make sure he was that and not the other?
I had to audition him to make sure he was patient enough to live with somebody like me.
Okay, now were you doing a lot of writing when you met him? You already were a writer at that point.
Yes, I've always been a writer, exactly, since I was about 6 years old and used to go around the neighborhood with a pad of paper telling people I was going to put together a neighborhood newspaper.
Did you ever do that?
No, but I talked a lot about it because I've spent my life just talking in general. And that's one thing that seems to come easily.
You've been compared with Emma Bombeck in a way, although I think your humor's a little bit different. I don't know. The comparison may be because you're both, it's probably a cliche, but you're both women and you both have senses of humor.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether the sense of humor is exactly this. I guess it's similar.
And I think she writes about broader topics than I do. I pretty much focus in on gender dynamics and what makes us different and what makes us tick, and of course what's funny about all that, because a lot of it is really funny.
No, it really is. And despite the fact that you talk about the weaknesses of men as compared to women, I think I would suspect, and I'm not positive of this, that you understand that some women have some weaknesses and men have a fair amount of strong points, too. Would you give me that, for heaven's sake?
Absolutely. And I got to tell you, Norm, this sounds like something a racist would say, but, I do like men. Some of my best friends are men. I mean, beyond the fact that I married a man, many times the people I choose to spend my free time with are my guy friends. They bring a different perspective to things, and sometimes it's a fresher perspective than my female friends can. Plus, men tend to have, I think, a great sense of humor. They're just a lot of fun.
You know what I found out? I did an all-night jazz show at one time, and I first found out about it at that point. I found out that men, I think, are in many ways are hipper than women. I don't know whether that's true today. I'm kind of going back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, that period, the 50s and 60s primarily. For example, on the jazz show, guys would call and say, "Yeah, man, I like some Count Basie. I'd like Woody Herman, Buddy Rich, those guys." And women would say, "I'd like a pretty ballad, a love song." More of that than they would, the real downright hard-hitting jazz.
And you know what I have found? It sounds almost as if you're saying that perhaps women are a little more conservative about these things than men. And I have found with humor on this subject, they are certainly more conservative. Men have read my book and said, "Gee, it was really funny. It's like you're looking in my windows, but you didn't come down hard enough on us. You were too nice to us." But then women, I have found, because I've done some research in this area, testing my writing on women with focus groups, and I have found that you can only push them so far in this subject. It reminds me of when you're talking about families, say you're married. My husband, I can say things about my family that are not kind, but my husband can't. Do you know what I mean? You've got these sensitivities. It's like women will say, "Well, I can talk about my husband behind his back, but you can't." So if I do it, I have to make sure that I do it in a very careful way so that it is truly funny and does not have an edge to it. whereas men like the writing when it has an edge. But the book really is written to enlighten women, so I walk that fine line there. But I do notice that women are more conservative about that sort of thing than men are.
Yeah. Anyway, the book, I would tend to agree with you, but then again, you've done more research on it, so I'll take your word for it, which sounds accurate to me. The book is called Why Can't a Man Be More Like a Woman? Sandra L. Beckwith, and it's published by Kensington, is it?
Kensington.
Kensington Books.
Right, in New York.
In New York. And it looks like the kind of thing that would be in the humor section of most any bookstore, almost anywhere. Is that so?
That's exactly right. That's just where you find it, in the humor section. Always filed alphabetically by author, and I'm a B, near Dave Barry.
That's right, near Dave Barry, who's a very, very funny writer. Sandra L. Beckwith. Okay. You're fun to talk with, Sandra.
Well, thank you. So are you. I enjoy this.
I appreciate that very, very much. My best. Now, what is your husband's name?
My husband's name is Bill. His last name is different from mine. He didn't take my name when we got married. Isn't that odd?
That's the way guys are.
Yeah.
You gotta live. Gotta live with that. Anyway, I was thinking more of his first name. Anyway, Bill and Sandy. We'll invite you to our next party.
Oh, that sounds great.
Invite Bill and Sandy. They're a swell couple. Anyway, thanks a lot for coming on. Best of luck to you and Bill and your two daughters, and I appreciate very much you talking with us, and it's been a fun hour for me.
My pleasure, Norm. Thank you for calling.
Take care.
All righty.
Bye-bye. It's Sandy Beckwith. She sounds adorable, doesn't she? She's a pretty lady, according to her picture here. Anyway, the book is called Why Can't a Man Be More Like a Woman? And if you want to pick it up, as Henry Morgan used to say when he did commercials, if you want to pick the book up, hey, don't let me stand in your way.
I enjoyed your guest. There was just one thing I took exception to, and that is the fact that only men like sports.
No, I know that. Actually, I have my oldest daughter, I should say my older daughter, since I only have two of them, is a great sports fan, Red Sox fan primarily, not so much other sports.
Yeah, well, I was watching. It was very confusing because I watched the playoffs between the Yankees and the Mariners, and for a while I had them and you on at the same time, which gives me a terrible headache.
Aren't you nice to hang in there, because I know what a big sports fan you are.
And it was such an exciting game.
I know, you could have easily turned us off, but it was that whole series was something.
It was fantastic. Fortunately, I don't believe they can pick you up in Manhattan.
No, not in New York City.
My younger son, who moved to New York 22 years ago, turned into a Yankees fan, which has been very difficult for me.
Oh, you poor soul.
I know it.
Yeah.
I mean, why couldn't he have knocked over a bank or done something?
I know. It's better he ran around wearing women's clothing than to do that.
But it was, we promised each other that if either of our teams, the Red Sox or the Yankees, were eliminated, that we would root for the other's team. I was lying.
Because you wouldn't root for the Yankees no matter what.
I can't.
No, I can't either. I understand that.
Well, Peter didn't become a baseball fan until about 9 years ago. And so while he was growing up here, he had not been properly indoctrinated with hatred of the Yankees.
Well, that's a shame. It's about time you as a mother ought to get to work on it.
I can't. He lives in New York now, and he points out that I was born in New York, and I hate the Yankees. I'm a Red Sox fan. But it was very exciting, Norma. When you were trying to find out the score, unfortunately, I couldn't tell you.
I know it. And Edgar, I just am looking at the results, and I saw some of the earlier innings when I was still home. Edgar Martinez hit a 2-run double in the 11th.
That's what won it for them.
Yeah.
Yes.
What a comeback, though, after losing the first two and then winning 3 in a row. We kept saying, that would have been an inspiration to us.
The Yankees have played very badly this year on the West Coast, and particularly in Seattle. It's funny the way some teams are bad with certain other teams with certain pitchers, and the Yanks have not done well on the West Coast. Generally, the Sox have. But I was thinking, because another thing, which I know I have 2 sons and 2 grandsons, so I'm pretty sure I'm a woman. But
I certainly will back you up on that. If there's any kind of a doubt.
I'm also rather phobic about shopping. I loathe it.
Okay, see, those were kind of stereotypes, I suppose. Although they may apply in most cases. Most women, would you say this? Most women like to shop more so than men in general. You know, I mean, there are exceptions, and I know there are some guys who absolutely have an orgasm when they're shopping for clothing. And I remember when I worked closer to television, I did some TV thing, guys would come across and say, "Boy, why did you get that jacket? That is really..." But normally guys don't really care. I don't care.
And then the other thing is clothes. You know, when your very charming and amusing guest said something about expiration dates on clothes, sometimes I think I'm rather like I am not a proper Bostonian, but rather like the proper Bostonian women. You know, we don't buy our hats, we have our hats. Well, I don't wear hats, but you could change that to clothes and it would fit me.
Because obviously I feel that way, but then again, I fit into her general description of men.
She is so right, though, about men not asking directions. Though I read that there was a reason for that, psychologically, that in the early part of a man's life, he listens to women all the time, to his mother, to other women, usually teachers in the early grades are women, and it comes to the point where when a woman says anything to him, he won't listen.
Oh, yeah, and she's the one who says, "Why don't you ask? Ask somebody."
Yes.
I suppose. Now, I suppose if a woman was driving with me and she did say ask somebody, I probably would. But you're not apt to. I think guys figure, I got a good sense of direction. All I need is one or two more blocks, and there'll be a sign, and I'll find out where I am. What's the point in holding things off by asking for direction? That only takes time. I don't know, whatever the logic may be. It's really stupid.
I've heard jokes about it. Why did the Israelites wander in the desert for 40 years? Because Moses wouldn't stop and ask directions.
No, I think that's trmen are very often worried about losing their masculinity or appearing less macho than they think they ought to be. It's like they're almost, if they ask for directions or they do something that's at all feminine, it's like they're being castrated. And the women feel that way too. Do you feel like you're less of a woman by doing certain things or not doing certain things? Do you have hang-ups like that?
No, I don't. Well, I think in some ways I'm a little atypical. For example, I think I identified, when I was growing up, I was an only child, I identified more with my father than with my mother.
Well, because I identify with my mother more than my father. You suppose we're kind of weird people?
And then when they talk about this male bonding thing, father and son, I'm the one who took my sons to their first ball games, not their father.
There you go.
And we were still married. This was before we split, so...
There's no point in putting you in a book, Helene. You don't just don't follow...
I just spoil everything.
You do. You don't follow any of the rules at all, and I wish you'd just stop it, for God's sakes.
But I just had to get that in. But she was very funny, and I thoroughly enjoyed her, and I thought you were very funny together.
I thought she was nice. I liked her a lot, and I appreciate you saying that.
Yes.
Take care, and I hope you have a fantastic... Who are you going to root for in the World Series thing?
Well, I think Cleveland, because they have a better chance of winning, and I hate both of the National League teams. I can't stand that stupid tomahawk chop and the noise. It's not because it's not politically correct. It's just it's noisy and it's boring. And I hate Marge Schott, so I can't root for Cincinnati. So I hate them both, and I'm normally an American League rooter.
So it's got to be Cleveland then.
Yeah, so I think Cleveland has the best chance of winning, of beating them, so I'll have to root for Cleveland.
Let's combine our predictions, because I would predict that Cleveland is going to be the World Series champion.
Well, we should have the best record in baseball in either league.
So is that our combined prediction?
Yes.
Cleveland, the world champs.
Absolutely. I mean, think of it. Think of all the years of ridicule they've gone through. And my daughter-in-law is a native of Cleveland, and both of my grandsons were born there. So that's another reason, though they don't even feel that way.
Okay. We'll stay in touch and see how it comes out.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye.
Good night.
All the diehard Red Sox fans cheering the Mariners on all the way.
Oh, yeah, anybody but the Yankees.
Oh, there were two gals from New York, but their applause was drowned out by our side.
What's the name of the watering hole up there?
Well, it's called the Cannery, and next time you come to Maine, you've got to come and visit us because it's a wonderful little place right down on the waterfront.
Okay, I'd love to.
In Yarmouth, and they serve very good food there. At any rate, we barflies were cheering the Mariners on all the way.
What a great series that was.
Oh, wasn't it great? Especially since the hated Yankees got beaten.
I know it. And an 11-inning game on top of all of them.
That left-hander is some kind of pitcher.
Oh, this is who is that? Wait a minute.
Oh, the one with the long hair. The other one with the long hair.
Okay,
something else.
I keep switching back and forth from to the, let's see, the sports ticker.
Yeah.
There. In any case, they won in 11 innings, 6-5. In case anybody missed that.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Who are you rooting for? Them or Cleveland?
I'd love to see the Mariners do it, but in the World Series, I'm afraid that there's too much power in Cleveland.
Yeah, and
as they proved it time and time again to our disgrace.
I know it.
Now, on the subject of Columbus Day, I agree with you. The 9th is not the day to celebrate, particularly since it was my darling's birthday.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm on the way out there on her birthday to see her again. At any rate, have you got any trivia tonight?
No, at trivia?
Yeah.
No, tonight is just me, and we go off here at 1 o'clock today, and that is I do.
Okay. Well, maybe I can get on the show on Friday.
I would love that very much. Friday or Saturday, please.
It's been a long time since being on there.
I know you have, and I miss you. I don't hear you as often as...
Well, I've been dragging my wing for a few months, Bob.
Okay.
As you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, take care of yourself, Fred.
I will, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I think he was talking to Bob Raleigh. Did you have that feeling since he called me Bob?
If you could tell me what qualifies her to be a jury consultant.
I know who you're talking about, and if you mention her name, it will make my stomach run sour.
No, I won't, because it would make mine do the same. Boy, can she talk without taking a breath, right?
She is one of the biggest fakers in the business.
And she's a jury consultant.
Oh, she'll be anything you want her to be.
Oh.
She at one point she was teaching something at BU called. She was teaching doctors stuff like interpersonal relationships, so they could have better relationships with their patients. And I thought, when we were doing the TV show together, this is a lady who couldn't get along with anybody. The whole thing is inane. It's inane. People on television pick anybody to be a consultant and an expert on topics.
Well, I'm served on a jury. I think they should ask me to be a jury consultant. I expect they get pretty good money.
Oh, I would think so. I mean, this is the only thing that keeps her going. Now she's suddenly a juror consultant. I mean, give me a break. Yeah. Holy God. Again, I won't mention her name. I think if I mention it, maybe I can be sued for defamation of character at this point.
I don't want to be sued either, so we won't mention it.
Okay.
Tell me, what do you know about Ricky Kleeman? She's a very nice person.
I'm sorry, Ricky who?
Ricky Kleeman on Court TV.
Oh, on Court TV.
I understand she's from the Massachusetts area.
Yeah, no, I don't know her. I love Court TV. I think they have some very good people there, but I don't know her specifically.
I was wondering, I understand she was an attorney here in the Boston area, and I think possibly even a teacher at some law school, maybe Harvard Law School, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I was very impressed by her throughout that trial, so I thought maybe I could get a line on her. I know she is a defense attorney, or an attorney anyways, and I know she gave a very comprehensive run of that during that trial. So I thought you might know more about her.
No, I'm afraid I don't. I'll have to check her out, though.
I wanted to give you a chuckle when I saw that. I thought, I said, well, Norm.
No, I saw that too, and I said, wait a minute, can that be who I think it is?
Why
the woman?
don't we apply for that job, Norm? Maybe it's easier than what we're doing.
No, I don't know. Not if I have to apply and sit next to her again. I did that for a whole year on Channel 5 on the TV show, and I thought,
Tell me, what does she do for such breath control? She has more breath control than Frank Sinatra.
No, I really not only do not know, but I don't even want to investigate.
All right. Listen, Norm, you have a good night. I enjoy your show.
Thanks a lot.
Okay,
thanks. Bye-bye. I wonder how many people know who we're talking about. This is a woman who was from around here, who was on local television. I did a TV show on Channel 5 for a couple of years. She was my co-host for one of those 2 years. And now she's in New York, or wherever they're broadcasting from, and suddenly she's become an authority on jurors. She's a juror expert. Anything you want, she'll be the expert on that, and she can talk people into it. It's absolutely incredible.
Marblehead, which is where her home was at that time. She was on 4. In fact, prior to working with you for a year, I believe she was on Channel 4, we won't mention the show, but she, for quite a while.
Yeah, she was on 4, and then she had a show, I think of her own, maybe not on 5. Maybe by the time she came to 5, we did the show together. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some of the idiots who ran Channel 5 at that time decided, because I'd had a couple of co-hostesses who were really sweet people the year before, suddenly they foist this person on me without even asking. I don't know, they had a death wish, I guess.
You very seldom, I respect you. You very seldom talk negatively about people in your business. A couple of times here and there you will, but generally you don't like to do it. I know you don't feel comfortable doing it, but this woman, Norm, as you know more than anybody, she was the most obnoxious know-it-all, and I'm talking in doing a tile job in her home and things like that. And then to watch her on television, and in the last year, you just saw her once, she's been on the CNN, she's been on CNBC with Rivera, she's been on all these shows as a jury consultant, and I say to myself, and I guess the question I have to ask you is, how does someone like this, who obviously does not appeal to most people, I would assume, who's difficult to get along with co-hosts and with people in the business, how does a woman like this get the credentials and the jobs and meet the people to get in positions that she gets in? Because obviously, she's a successful woman.
Yes. And I normally I admire successful women, but not this one. The point is, whether she's liked or not by people in general, or whether she's obnoxious, really probably has not much to do with it. If you can do your job and you're qualified, there are a lot of people in broadcasting in various fields who are obnoxious, but they do the job, so people tolerate their obnoxious qualities, and it doesn't very often come across on the tube when you watch them or hear them. Her, I think it does, but then again, I'm probably prejudiced because I did work with her and I found her that way.
And she was the same way on and off the air.
No, exactly the same. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I couldn't stand her. Well, that's a whole other thing, but how she doctors up her credentials to convince people in high places, networks, that she really knows what she's talking about is quite an art, and I suppose you have to admire that. You really have to admire that. Most of us just couldn't get away with that, but she does. Oh, were you there at Delphi's, you mean?
Yeah, Delphi's. I walked with my mother-in-law. I was campaigning for Councilor Lodge in PBC. We were campaigning Westfield yesterday afternoon. We stopped in for lunch. And I was glad to see you, to say hello to you, and I told her that was Norm Nathan from WBZ.
Oh, yeah, was there with one of my daughters.
Yeah. That's a pretty nice restaurant.
The food is fantastic. It's one of these, what do they call them?
Deli type of restaurant.
Well, a deli, but it's more than that way. You see all the foods in trays. I'll have a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and I think the food is great. I love that.
It reminds me a lot of the Brothers restaurant.
A cafeteria-style restaurant.
Cafeteria-style.
Well, Brothers is in Beverly and also in West Peabody. Downtown Peabody.
Yeah,
it's the same kind of restaurant, but the cafeteria style. Really nice.
Yeah, the brothers are all over the place because there's a big one in Wakefield, down Wakefield, and like you said, Beverly, Peabody, and Salem. They're all over the place, and they're all good deli-style restaurants.
Well, they're good. They're good general. Lots of good food, good plain, ordinary food at that the prices are reasonable. I don't know what I'm plugging them for like this.
Yeah, well,
but anyway, we go there quite often. Our producer Hope Schauer, the lovely Marilyn Gorelnik, and me, the almost gosh darn it, cheekers, I missed it again. The almost good-looking Norm Nathan person. News coming along, and then Bob Rawley with you throughout the rest of the night. And I'll see you on the weekend. Okay, bye-bye, olds.
Yet another one checked off the list. Now, something of note here. I'm not going to end on a downer, but I just wanted to mention that both Tiny Tim and Norm would be gone within a month of each other the very next year. All right, we got a lot of credits, and they're fun credits, so thanks again for listening, and we'll see you all next week. Closing the vault and leaving this world a little sillier than we found it. For David Naughton, Kane Hodder, Friday the 13th, Jason Voorhees, SpookyWorld, American Werewolves, Tiny Tim, Slight Thrills, Marrying a Dream, Doing Your Best in Praying for the Rest, Ernest R. Ball, Mother McCree, Sonny Boy, Al Jolson, Irving Kaufman, Great Thoughts, Hal Bruno, the 1919 Boston Police Strike, Driving with Caution, Secondary and Tertiary Roads, Plainsies and Clapsies, the Portsmouth Music Hall, Joe Williams, the Harry W. Jones Jr. Memorial Scholarship Fund, Dave Seiler and the Seacoast Big Band, Generosa, the Village Green, St. Adelaide's, Practicing Safe Radio by Putting a Condom on Each Ear, the Certifiable Genius, Sandra Beckwith, Lustful Nymphs, Fire Good, Male Bonding, Camaraderie, the drudgery of daily chores, crochet doilies, nicknames, the Doolittle Report, burlesque comedians, fun ties, scalding mockery, uterine homing devices, sock mopping, the high fashion industry of broadcasting, unduly savage treatment, clothing expiration labels, the Costume Institute, Bacos, Toaster Crumbs, the Three Stooges, Visual Stimulation, the Sipowicz Syndrome, Dennis Franz, Greek Gods, Asking for Directions, Combined Predictions, The Cannery in Yarmouth, Maine, Jury Consultants, Delphi's Restaurant, Brothers Restaurant, Eddie LeClair, Hope Schauer, Jack Harte, and the very macho and big-brained Norm Nathan. I'm just a guy, Tony Nesbitt.
You can't be too careful these days.